We all know our roads are hurting, don't we? I'll promise you just this. Now, this one may sound a little difficult, but some way, somehow, I've got to come up with $225 million of monies that's not anywhere today. That doesn't mean we have to tax you. We just got to figure it out. Then here's what I'll do. I told many people along the campaign trail, there's a way to get things going with no money. The way is this, and whether it be the tolls or whatever it may be, I've got to come up with a bucket that is equivalent to $125 per living human in West Virginia. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to tax you in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but I've got to come up with $225 million. And here's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to turn and take it and use the multiplier of 15 years or 20 years or 25 years at low interest rates we have today, turn it into $4.5 billion, put it into a financial instrument and sell it to Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or whoever it may be.
Next item. I want to introduce you to Larry Fink. Aptly named. Larry Fink. He is the head of something called BlackRock. If it doesn't sound real good to you, you're getting it. It is the world's largest asset manager. That's like referring to a bus driver as the world's greatest transportation engineer. It's a bus driver. He manages money, and he does manage an enormous amount of it. The biggest one there is, BlackRock, Larry Fink. And he was in the news this last month because he has a great idea. Here's his idea. President Trump, to whom he addresses all of this, President Trump, we Americans know that the roads and the bridges and the harbors in our country are in bad shape. We need to rebuild them, repair them, extend them. We need a massive infrastructure investment. I'm sure you've all heard about it. Trump was talking about it when he campaigned. He's been talking about it since he was elected. And Mr. Fink says, I recognize the man is being generous. Or to be more accurate, he's trying to have us think he's being generous. I know that the government has to do this. I know for our country's sake. Puts his hand over his heart, puts the flag on his head. For our country's sake, we have to invest in infrastructure, but I understand that the government can't afford it. It doesn't have enough money. No worries, he says. We can have it done by having a public-private partnership. Friends, when you hear that phrase, hold on to your wallet because someone is trying to get out of your pocket whatever is in there. Here's what Mr. Fink means. You don't have enough money, he says to the government. But we do. They're the big investment managers of wealthy people's money. An investment manager manages corporations and individuals who are wealthy. If you've never had an asset manager, it's because you are poor. I don't mean to be the bearer of the bad news, but not much I can do to help you here. So, Mr. Fink is going to help us all out. He's going to help the government rebuild the bridges, redo the roads, fix the harbors, all the things we need to keep our society going, literally. But because it's a partnership, of course, and because private money is going to be contributed by the private partners, there has to be a return on investment. An ROI for those of you who deal with high finance. In other words, they'll help, But there's got to be something in it for them. So they need to get a return on the portion of the infrastructure investment they're going to help us make. Which means the roads of the future will have lots of tolls. And the bridges will have lots of tolls. And the harbor will have lots of tolls. And you all will get to pay for them in order to give a return to the private partnership. But let's go back and do that again. The biggest corporations and the wealthiest people in the world give their money to Larry Fink at BlackRock. And he says, I know the government doesn't have enough money. Stop, let's examine that. The reason the government doesn't have enough money is because large corporations and wealthy people don't pay taxes. That job is your responsibility. If you're wealthy, you get an accountant and a lawyer. You get an account in the Bahamas, one in Switzerland, one in Luxembourg, and one on the moon. And you arrange for your wealth to be held where it won't be taxed, to be held in a form where the government won't know. They're specialists in that. It gets exposed once a month. For what? For 50 years. Everybody knows. They help themselves, the corporations and the rich do, by evading their taxes. But now you've got to admire what Larry Fink is doing. Having starved the government of the taxes, they want to take the money that they didn't pay in taxes and partner with the government, using the money that the government didn't tax from them to now be a partner, and the government will have to pay them off for getting the money that they otherwise could have taxed from them. Folks, if we had more time, I would stop and you would have to listen to the national anthem. Because you have to take your hat off. This takes courage, I'm trying to find a neutral word, to come up with a plan like this and with a straight face, as if these folks are doing us a favor by offering to partner with us with the money that they didn't pay in taxes. Because if, of course, had they paid the taxes, the government would have the money and we wouldn't have an infrastructure problem in the first place, would we? They rip us off by not paying taxes, and now they want to rip us off with that money that they didn't pay by making us pay tolls so they can get a nice return on what they do with the taxes they didn't pay. Whoa! You want to know why capitalism has been successful? Because it pulls that stunt over and over again. This is just the latest installment